Good morning to everybody who's on the line, who's jumping on with us this morning. So excited to have this mastermind call with the Dreammakers Network again. And with all of you who have been supporting us over the years and been a part of this network for over the past 10 years. It's really cool to say that. So, who's been a part of this network for the past 10 years, we're truly thankful for your uh, leadership and support and guidance and friendship and fellowship. We just really can't even begin to tell you how valuable it is to be able to say, we've been able to do something consistently and in various iterations, but over time there was a consistent flow of people throughout the country who have identified an interest in personal development and really focusing on getting better and getting better from the perspective of your personal goals in this life. And, a lot of times when we talk about getting better, it's because somebody else may have said, hey, it's time for you to get better. It's time for you to get better at your job, or it's time for you to get better at your marriage, or something that someone said, hey, you need to get better. But this is one moment where we really try to, block out everything else that's been going on throughout the week, the day-to-day race that we're all in. And this is a time where you can identify what is it that you truly believe that you're here to do, and where are you in that process? Where are you? Are you in a position where you're finding yourself growing and ongoing, supporting and going after the goals that matter to you? Or does it just live in your mind? Does it just live in your mind? And I tell you, there's nothing wrong with something starting there. When it starts in your mind and you're being able in that creation process of starting an idea and getting excited about it, but it can't live there. It has to go from the mindset to practical. And so this is that time when we not only have a safe space to really go in and talk about the things that we believe that we are here to create, the way that we move, the way that the types of ideas that have been there for so long, that either you're willing to do it yourself or you're willing to share and give it life outside of you and your mindset, you and God. And that's the thing. A lot of times we don't realize that, we don't have to do everything by ourselves. It doesn't have to be a single mission. It doesn't have to be just something that, well, if I don't have time to do it, so it's not going to be done. And that's not the case. A lot of times, we are given ideas, we're given, energies, if you will, and things to create that is for you to share, for someone else to create it, for someone else to go to work on it. It may just be, you just may be the messenger. And a lot of times we don't get that. Sometimes we, we hold on to it because we think it's ours, right? And, you think, and I listen to a lot of a lot of those artists and the musicians, and they just write music. I mean, they can't stop. They're just so creative. They're just writing music, and it's just nonstop. And they know because they're just a writing machine, if you will, and they can't get all that done themselves. So they distribute that, and they find people. In many cases, they're still in the creation mode when they'll say, you know what, I wrote a song for you, and I really want you to sing the song. When I think about it, I hear your voice. That kind of thing. That's still being part of the creation mode. And so the objective there is just to make sure that, for the purposes of this call, that we are not just, sitting on the things that we're supposed to create, and that we can be focused on personal development. We can focus on growth without any stagnation, if you will, where we're not really pursuing and moving forward with everything that truly matters to us, and then feeling bad and and kicking ourselves for not moving forward. Every time, there are times we hear about folks will say, "Oh, I can't believe they started that when I had that idea." And like they did a bad thing for moving forward with theirs. You know what? So we can't sit on things. We have to get moving, and so we want to always have a make sure that this space is an opportunity for us to share and talk about all of those things. At the same time, as we are working through our day-to-day stuff, and how do we best organize day-to-day with goals, and where are we headed, and is it valuable? How do we feel about it? How should we be thinking? How do we work on our mindset? And why should we even do all this stuff, right? Why can't we just be and do that until the last day, right? And so it's always good to have that type of group to share and talk about these things with, and then maybe be able to add some value to somebody else's situation, because we discount. We always, I know so many people who are just doing great things and have been such a added value to people, and they just discount the stuff that they're doing. They discount their worth and how valuable it is to someone else. And so, I think it is worth us not only feeling confident and having the freedom to share your story and highlight some of the successes, even, detail the challenges, because you never know who's listening, and you never, and here's the truth. It doesn't even matter if someone acknowledges to you that they heard your story, in some form or fashion. It doesn't even matter. It's the fact that you did it. It's the fact that you were honest enough to communicate, to share where you are and what happened. And you're doing it for you, but you're also doing it for the folks you'll never hear. You never hear from. And just know that as you have kind of brought it out of you, you're sowing a seed into someone else. And for me, that is the flow of this life. That is that giving and that flow of giving, that as you just give, you don't even have to worry about, am I going to receive? Receiving is part of the flow, but you have to give first. It has to come out first before you can even have some level of anticipation or expectation of something receiving and coming back. And so that is a good part. And we try to create this mastermind call and opportunities like this for us to share and be able to communicate and reach folks you'll never hear from. And sometimes you may hear from someone. Someone may just walk up on you and be like, man, I actually heard you, on a Dreammakers call, or I saw you at an event and you shared your story. And listen, let me tell you what I did with that. The past several years, here's what's happened to me. And I never thought I had a chance to see you. But here we are. And so that is a big part of what we've been doing. And to be able to say we've been doing this for 10 years, I'll tell you, I think some of you guys know that one of the favorite things that I enjoy doing every day, and which is one of the valuable things of Facebook, is to go and look at the memories and look at the memories on Facebook. And depending on how long you've been a member or on Facebook, it'll go back and highlight what were you doing 5, 10, maybe even 15 years ago. And I actually joined Facebook. I remember it was after I got back from England. And so it was probably, I think it was maybe late. Actually, probably it was right around this time. I think it was probably like around this time in 2007. And that was when I opened an account And I had all these pictures from my year in England, and I was uploading pictures and things like that. And then that was also kind of the beginning of the Obama campaign, or at least my involvement with the Obama campaign. And so it was all those things. And so it's just amazing. I look back now, what is that? 15 years later, all of the things that pop up, I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. And then it even also highlights, actually it was so interesting. So it was earlier this week, I popped on looking at the memories, and I saw someone who was a part of one of our early calls. It might have been like it may have been the first call. And when I think about it now, it probably was either the first or the second call that we ever did in 2012, September 2012. It was probably, I would say, maybe the second call that we did in 2012. And man, oh my Lord, it was so many, just all these great things were being said. And I was able to kind of read that and then think about the fact that we're 10 years into this, and we've done this for 10 years, and just really find great value in that. And to see where that person's life has, what's produced in that person's life over the past 10 years, and the value that she has had and what has become in her life. And so it's a blessing. It is more than a blessing to be able to be able to participate and have done this for the past 10 years. And as we look deeper into the future, the next 10, what's the next 10 all about? It's even more exciting. And so I just want to take a second again just to say thank you to each of you who've been a part of this network over that period of time. And, the sky is the limit as to what's next, but we truly do appreciate all of you. Even if you're here on the first time, welcome and thank you. And we hope that you will be a part of the next 10 with the Dreammakers Network and this mastermind call. All right. I'm going to lead with this, that I'm not going to keep you long. I know I've said that several times, but I'm not going to keep you long today. But I do want to take time to really just, I would say, thank all of you who participated in the 90-day goal setting challenge as we finished at Labor Day, from Memorial Day to Labor Day, and really being able to unpack our goals in each area and being purposeful when working on your goals, at least, and regardless of where you are now in that process, I think it's just a blessing to be able to highlight a fact that I'm starting a goal setting initiative. I'm working toward it. I'm following a process. Here's where I'm measuring my process and my progress and where I am. And at the end of the day, that is the objective. The objective is to have something that people can say, I'm in, right? And it's something about, somebody put something out there, you say, I'm in. Every time I say I'm in, it seems like there's something very, just definitive about it, right? So it's like, I'm in. And next thing, now you're part of this community of folks who have made a decision to set goals, folks who have decided, yes, I'm in this. And, I think the bigger part for me is that, when you think about all of the people you can spend time with, and now in this world that we live in now, you can spend time with people virtually. And all of your friends could be virtual. That could be the case, right? And so we just live in that kind of world now. And the conversation, the communication, the daily encouragement, the just to being able to participate in their flow and what's going on, and the intention to progress, the intention of accomplishment. I mean, that kind of stuff on a day-to-day basis, or just being able to associate with people who are moving in that direction. I don't think we realize how valuable it is, because when you're listening to what they're doing, all of that stuff, whatever you hear and see, becomes fact for you. If you've heard it and you've seen it happen, it's now real. It is something that is possible. And it's no longer impossible anymore. And that's the thing, it's like people say that's impossible. To you it is, but to someone else who's out here doing it, it's not impossible. And so there's something that happens to our mindset, to our psyche, when we continuously see things go from impossible to possible. There's something that changes in our energies, in the way we see the world, in the way we discern things, in the way we move. Because if things now seem to become a bit more realistic, things that just were way off, just like no way kind of thing. And now you're like, I might be able to do this, and that's the part when that light bulb hits you and you say, you know what, this is crazy, but I might be able to pull this off. That there's so much, power behind that, to know that you have the capacity to do something that you initially thought couldn't be done. And so I would say that, yes, these goal setting initiatives and challenges are for you to pursue and accomplish those goals. That is number one. But number two is like, sometimes I go back and I think about like back in the, the 80s and early 90s, when we used to watch, what was it, like Video Soul, and what Donnie Simpson used to say, hey, shoot for the moon. And even if you miss, you'll be amongst the stars. That's still a thing that, I haven't heard him say that in, 35 years, but at least it's still in my brain, because it always came on. And that part is, if you start pursuing something, you start hanging around people who are pursuing stuff and doing stuff that they always wanted to do, and somebody who's willing to pursue a desire, before you know it, you're also like you might not have hit that goal, but then you took a step back and looked around at these new people, like this is my crew. These are people who I associate with. Now you begin to think that, they did it. They pulled it off. If they can pull it off, I can pull it off. Versus, well, why they pulled it off, right? And then it's because what they say, why they did it, because they had, they were able to get this and they got access to that. I don't have access to that kind of stuff, so I can't. That's exactly what that's the first thing folks say when they just don't try to discount why we can't do it. It's like, oh well, we didn't have that kind of silver spoon, growing up, right? So that's not for us. That's for them, right? And no, that's not. That is absolutely not the case. Once you set your mind towards something and you begin the process of working toward it, focusing on that thing, having some real experiences and meeting new people who will be a part of you building what it is that you want to create. Before you know it, your circle has changed and you're getting access to information that was not available to you before. which changes the variable, which changes the whole equation. It's for you guys, for you math and algebra heads, who say, oh, now you're adding a y variable. Well, that changes everything, right? So you get new information, you get something new added to this objective that you're setting on. Now your mindset changes and says, whoa, I didn't think that was something that I could do. So now you tell me I can do that, and that's the type of conversations that I've had, I have with clients and who working hard, making good money, doing the best that they can do. And then they say, yeah, I would, invest in that, but I don't think I can because whatever rule they put in their head, somebody told them at the water cooler one day that you can't do that kind of thing. It's like, yes, you can. What? Show me where I can do it. Where does it say I can do that? And now they have this new information and said, so if I were to do this and pull that money from here and put it there, and it grows at that rate, whoa, I can do this a lot sooner than I was hoping. So it's the whole piece of coming up with an idea, saying, I want to take this idea from mine to practicality, to something that I'm actually working on to see if we can create it, and then begin the process of bringing in the right people to help make it come to life. And so just thankful that you guys were able to join us and participate in the 90-day goal setting challenge that we've been doing every summer, and we'll continue to do them, and then as we go into the future of this network and the future of personal development as it pertains to us, there will be more opportunities to really participate in 90-day challenges, in 90-day cycles, and be able to pursue and measure where you are and what came of that. And so, but again, I just wanted to take this time to say thank you. And I think this is a good time to really open up the call. As I mentioned, everybody has attempted this in some way, form, or fashion, and may have some successes, failures, just kind of random experiences that they have had over this summer. I say, let's open up the call. Let's talk it through. Let's hear about it. What happened, what's been going on, how did it play out, and you don't have to even talk about where you are now. Let's just kind of go through what were your experiences, things that you've learned, things that's going to be helpful going forward, even if it was a bad experience. So whatever the case may be, let's take a second and we'll open up the call now for you to share and kind of give us a little update on where things are and how was your experience with the 90-day goal setting challenge. We'll open up the call now. And the same for our folks on social media. Feel free to pop it into the chat. Let us know what you're thinking and what were your experiences. We'd love to hear from you as well. We'll take a second and open up the call now. Morning. Morning.
Yeah, I think and the call and all that, and then the things that may not have been as consistent that that fell off, that weren't strong. But the power of the network, power of the consistency, and how we just kept kind of chugging along through this. And the word used another great word, iteration. Through the different iterations of what's been of the various types of ways that the call and the network kind of evolved, changed, but it's still consistent, and there's such power in inconsistency and habit forming, and the fact that the network itself is a kind of a living, breathing organism that has the habit of showing up for the people who are in it. Is very, very, very powerful. I know, and it's not lost on me. I know it's not lost on you, and I just wanted to bring it to the forefront because some
the recording has started.
Who have benefited from it might have you know about it, but you don't really realize it some of the time. Wow, this thing has been around for a second. And that's a very powerful thing.
Yeah.
And here's how you know it's very powerful. When you think about it from the standpoint of something else that's not the network, but then it leaves or it disappears. Like I don't know, let's say like it's a good example. A McDonald's. Very rarely do you see a McDonald's just gone. You know what I'm saying? Like it was there, but it's gone. And there's one that I recently drove by. I'm like, damn, they used to be a McDonald's like that. You know what I'm saying? It's just gone. And it's not, obviously they're not hurting, for business mind. I'm sure it was for good reason that they moved it or did whatever. But the fact that it was there and now it's gone.
Yeah.
And I'm using that because the consistency of it, kind of becomes that mainstay for in your life, or the fact that it's there. Sometimes you don't be mad, and that goes along with, all the beautiful things that we have in our lives. So I just bringing it up and acknowledging it is a powerful thing. I just wanted to, kind of reiterate it, give from my perspective, and just general gratitude for the fact that it is. Really, for the fact that it is. There's a place where we can go, on various Saturdays throughout the month or, the year, or all kinds of, and you can, meet up places, and then obviously also the interpersonal connections and people from the network that you can connect with, that are rooted in personal development and have an energy and vibration that you can tap into when you need to, and also that you can pour into when you're full. So that's super powerful, and I don't take it for granted. And I'm definitely appreciative of it. Hence the reason why I don't have a problem with making it go a little longer every time. Screw that. We need this. Let's do it. That kind of thing. Keep the game. Overtime. Yes, we're in overtime. It's a beautiful game when you go into overtime.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, but I just, and obviously, we can have a whole call of trip down memory lane and all the, shaking hands and feeling good about all things of that. I want to put that out there.
No.
But about the question for the 90-day challenge of the goal setting, you said something else that was very interesting early on, and it made me think of something that we haven't brought up in reference to goal setting, but I do hear it sometimes from some of the goal setting masters that study and look at all that as I'm trying to better myself and get better at setting and achieving goals and targets. The quote is, "It's not the goal. You don't set goals to achieve goals. You set goals to become the type of person that can achieve what the goal that you set."
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So So in that, I was like, wow, okay. But in this last 90 days, it was like, so sometimes you put the hard goals, and then sometimes I go into like those esoteric goals, like, you know what, this 90 days, I'm going to, my goal is clarity. You know what I'm saying? You go into trying to figure out what that means and all that. So this one wasn't a hard goal. It was one of those esoteric kind of, get yourself together. Let's work on purpose. Let's just get stronger in that area, so we can go into 2023, ready to roll. Really not 2023, really the next 3 years, the next 36 months, right? So that's what this goal. So in doing that and working on the transformation and just elevating myself, I found that, first of all of the pieces within the call, not pieces within the call, but the calls that happened during that time were pivotal in kind of pinpointing an area that I needed to work on, and then incorporate that into the whole me, so that I can get, step by step closer to this person that I want to be, right?
Yeah.
And this person that I need to become is the person that is the starting point in my mind for the next 36 months.
Mm-hmm.
This person, this path has to go here, right? And then, as I don't want to trail off too far, but I'm going to try to bring it back to something that we also talk about, which is the future self, right?
Yeah.
So the idea was that the goal of the target, and then the goal of the target was to become a person that is in line with my future self.
Mm-hmm.
Like really close to my future self. And then this current guy, in the past that stands there right at the end of 90 days, and then the past that is 50, 36 months from now, 36 months from now, they're aligned. Not saying that obviously this past is 3 years from now will be a better version of this guy, but this guy is at least on the right path for the future path that I've determined that I want to become. Did that make sense? I sound like I was talking in circles. Right.
No, I got it.
You know what I'm saying? That was kind of, because you're talking about the future past, the future, the past. I feel like I'm in a multiverse right now, right? What I'm saying is that as far as the goal setting process itself, and that thought that really every goal, and that's what I thought about when you talked about, where you want to go and what it even if you don't achieve the goal, it's what you learned along the way. I thought of like, well, every goal that's set is really about the becoming of the person that can either achieve the goal or you've constructed to handle, you've constructed to handle the obstacles that the goal is going to put up against, so that you can, eventually reach that goal. And then this is the last piece, tie it all together, and then that's where that term, it's about the journey comes from. But for a while, I thought that was corny. Like, no, it's not really about the journey. I'm cool. I'd much rather get there. Let's not embrace the journey. Let's go ahead and get there, and enjoy the arrival. Which there is an enjoying of the arrival, but that journey part is really, in my mind, I'm removing that idea of the journey being enjoyed and saying that the becoming and who you become is much more powerful than just that end result. Because who you become is setting you up to do the next thing, and then that, because if that didn't happen and you just stumbled on it, then you would be on an island, a little island of success, but you wouldn't be able to go anywhere because you hadn't developed skills or know how you really got there. So that piece about this last 90 days has been very eye-opening for me. It's things that I've heard, and I don't say I knew, it's things that I was aware of, but really embracing them that has occurred in this past 90 days And so now I can get to the corny line of, hey man, no, just enjoy the journey. Enjoy the journey. Life is a journey. Enjoy it. Enjoy it. And mean it though, and understand it from that perspective. Not just like a cop out because you didn't hit it. No, it's about the journey, right? So some stuff I came up with while you were talking and based on my 90-day set. So it's pretty cool. Pretty cool.
It's interesting, especially when you talk about journeys. It's like, my mindset and kind of my foundational thinking, a lot of it comes from what I heard and saw as a kid in the church. And we would see folks who would identify with, like, their word for journey would be ministry, if you will. So it's like, if the objective, and then in the church you had various types of ministries, so someone they were just focused on, going out and going into the areas where they probably didn't have churches. And so they would go there, missionary type work. Then you had someone else who was really good with the youth. And so they did a lot of youth programs, and their whole ministry was from the early age all the way until my later years. I focused on youth work, and others who had food pantries and providing food for the sick, and and others who were really good preachers and teachers, right? So you had all these various ministries, but at the end of the day, they were deciding that this was going to be my life's work, and so I'm in for the journey, the long game. And so I'm the same way, is when it comes to goals, that I think the long term, and which probably that stuff probably led me right into becoming a financial professional, because every conversation is about the long term. And I'll tell folks up front, I was like, hey, if you're looking for a short-term advisor, I can refer some folks who specialize in short-term investments, things like that. I can kind of give you some high-level strategy and things like that. But there are some guys who specialize in short-term investments, trading, options, things like that. Here's their contact information. They'll treat you good, kind of thing, and move away from it, right? Because that's not what I do. What I do is focus on the long term, and how is this going to be beneficial, not only for you right now, but for generations to come. And so when we talk about goals, it's like, if you can't, I don't even see how. That's the reason why I don't think my words. I was actually, as I was talking earlier about this 10-year kind of milestone, I realized that as I was talking that I really need to beef up my vocabulary, because I didn't have the words to actually express the value that a 10-year mark actually means. Like I was saying words, but in my mind, I was like, that's not really how I feel about doing something consistently for 10 years and not having kind of an end.
Exactly how I feel. I'm glad you said that, because that's how I was saying when I was talking about, like, well, it's just, but yes, I agree with you 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I was in my mind, like, I need to, and when this is over, I'm opening a thesaurus, I'm going to start beefing up my vocabulary to be able to throw in stuff that at least, okay, all right, at least I got more words available to me to use, because on the inside, I'm sitting here like, 10 years, man. And you start, and then your brain starts thinking about all of the various people. And so, and again, we talked about the fact that, everybody has a unique thing, a unique journey, a unique ministry, a unique work that matters to them specifically. It may not make sense to other people, and that's okay. But there is something unique that matters to you. And when you get down that road of just immersing yourself in that thing, and just doing that, and then people begin to know you for that. I had a, well, actually, and I don't know if Dr. Dana's on the call, and she used to tell me, she was like, I answer every phone call that comes. Even if I don't know the number, I answer all the phone calls. I was like, why you do that? She was like, because I got something good to say. And I don't know who it is, but when I answer this phone, I'm getting ready to say something good to them. They're about to get what they were looking for. I was like, that is some gangster stuff right there.
I said, either they're going to bless me or I'm going to bless them.
That's what I was asking.
But I'm answering.
Either they're going to bless me or I'm going to bless them. That's what it was. I was like, wow, that's some positive gangster stuff. That's and I used and listen, and after that, I started checking myself. After she said that to me, I was like, all right, am I going to answer this phone? I was like, no, I ain't answering this. I was like, I ain't got it like Dr. Dana yet.
I'm with you. Hey, please, until the iPhone came up with Scam Likely, man, I might have been with you, but now I'm like, They tell you. That's powerful. I'm jotting that one down. That's powerful. I'm working towards that. Thank you.
And you got to drop it in one more time.
You attract what you think, though. So money is always looking for me. And so I got to give it the opportunity to find me, right?
I love it. I got to give it the opportunity to find it. I love it. I never forget when you dropped that one on me. That's been years ago, too. And that just goes to show you all those years, I've still been, I think yesterday I got a phone call and I was like, who is this? I was like, but the good doctor said I should answer this phone call. And I didn't answer the phone. So I'm still a work in progress.
Here's a testimony. This is, forgive me, I got my fingers in my mouth, so if I sound crazy, that's why.
Go ahead.
But the wealthiest people that call me call from an unidentified number, a weird number. And some of the people who have written me the biggest checks have called from an unidentified number. So I'm just saying, we attract what we think. So I smile when I see those no caller ID or whatever. Okay, bring it to me.
Bring it to me.
I can always hang up if I can always hang up if I don't like what they're saying.
Ooh, that is so true. Yeah, you ought to experience what I'm going through right now, because I know everything she's saying is true. It's so true. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not their name. It's not popping up. It's their name is not, unless it's already in your phone. It's not popping up, right? So yeah, it's so true. And at the end of the day, if you don't like what they're saying, just hang up. All right, I'm going to give a progress report on where I am in this. Because I know I've been saying this, I don't know how long ago you told me this, but that was probably, I don't know, maybe 6 years ago. But I'm giving a progress report on that, on the next call. And ongoing, because that is some truth. That's the most positive gangster statement I've ever heard in my life. Oh man. But I'm trying to remember, what was I saying about that that made me go there. I don't remember, but it was worth talking about. All right. I am mindful of the time, because it is almost 8:00. But I do want to take a second though and transition into really the topic of the day, which is transition. And so there's a couple of things that actually kind of led me to this topic of transition. One, because I've always kind of looked at the month of September and even like the month of April as transition months. and for me personally, and maybe it's because of, well, I guess the first step would be, it's the transition in seasons, going from winter to spring, going from summer to fall. There is a transition period in those months before you really get a chance to actually be in the actual season. I know it's especially in Maryland, we would get, actually sometimes you can get snow, in April. And so you're like, wait a second, aren't we in spring and it's still snow coming down? But the other part is when we think about, particularly with the 90-day goal setting challenge, and for those who have just really put your head down and just said, I'm putting the gas on this thing and we're going to make this work. 90 days and going through 30-day sessions and pursuing goals that you had in your mind that you brought into practicality. We talk about it a lot, but it's more than, it's a real deal. And it's one thing to say that you're measuring throughout the process, but when you got your foot on the gas, sometimes it's difficult to measure. You're just going and you're building and you're winning and you're failing and you're going through all this, all the happenings of pursuing a goal. You quit, you get back in, you start again, you bring in somebody new and all that. And in this particular season, once you hit the month of October, and definitely since we've been hosting this call for the past 10 years, October has also been kind of the, okay, it's go time in preparing for January. We're not waiting, to January 1st to have a New Year's resolution, so October is the beginning of, let's settle and close out things well for this year, all while preparing and strategizing for a great next year. And so when you have that month of September where you're able to really assess and assess what you've done and the benefits or the realization of that, the consequences of what you just did, and at the same time, that moment before you get in full preparation mode for a successful end of the year and new year. But I think it's something about that period of transition that there's not a lot of talk about, that space that you're in. And I think about when I was a kid and we used to, I guess I think about a lot of that stuff now because I'm back in Florida and riding around through my, streets where I grew up. And, we used to jump ditches, around the house, and there would be a ditch and say, okay, let's see who can actually jump across this ditch. That was the game, right? So we'd run and some made it, some didn't make it, right? But it's that moment when you're airborne, you had the gall or you had the, that belief that you could actually do it. So you ran fast as you could to show that you were leaving one thing and you see where you're going, but you're in that space where you're no longer there, but you're not there yet. You're no longer where you were, but you're not where you're headed yet. And you're in that moment. And that's in many cases where we kind of feel we are sometimes when we're in between spaces and we're not getting there fast enough, or it looks like we may not get there, but you're in that position where you could very well end up hearing and being faced with a bunch of different things when you're in that transition period, which, in some cases could really throw you off and mess with your mindset and the whole nine, and the one thing I think about is in that space, when you're in that transition space, you've already left, but you hadn't gotten to where you're trying to go. It's that whole piece of the willingness and intention, and the fact that you were willing enough And what even got you to the place to say, I am willing to go there? What you actually, what were the motivating factors to say, I can do it? I can go to this next space, especially if you believe where you're going is really the next level. It is the evolution of who you are. And then and at the same time, it's that situation when you say, well, if I stay where I am, is there more work for me to do here? And, in most cases, folks have really done everything that they can do and believe the next, where their goals are taking them is on the other side. And it also could be the case even when, it's not even goal related. It's just you're forced to deal with something like that. It's whether it be, you were, I was actually I had a really good conversation earlier this week with a friend of mine, and we were just talking about, death and unexpected loss, and what happens in the situation of unexpected losses. And so somebody, a loved one passes away, and you were here, and then you're kind of forced to be in this transition situation where I didn't plan for it. I didn't see that that's where I was going. I'm here now. I'm in a transition. I don't want to be in a transition. I have no other choice because of reality is where I was does not exist anymore. The life that I had is no more. The partner that I had is no more. All of these different things, whether it be death or divorce or some type of, completely unwanted separation where you're forced to be in transition. And even going back to that example of jumping the ditch, at least on the situation of jumping the ditch, I wanted to get to the other side. So I was running as fast as I could to prove to myself that I could get to the other side. But in that situation, when you weren't even planning to be in transition, and all of a sudden you're there and you find yourself in that transition space, you didn't run with momentum or nothing. Like you're just sitting there like, what in the world is happening right now? And you're there. And I think it's just so important to highlight the fact that these are real things that we all go through. Either we do it because we want to do it, or we find ourselves there and we're forced to make a decision as to where we're going. And, it was so interesting because you have that situation where if you're forced to be in that case, and I guess we probably all can think about this, but we all know someone who never recovered. They never can be a long time. Can literally be a crazy thing happened to me when I was a teenager. I lived to be 85 years old and I never recovered from it. And that is a reality that we all know. If we start looking into our families and friends, that's what happened, right? And I think it's just so important, especially as we talk about these journeys. We talk about these journeys that the long term of our plans, the long term of our work, the long term of our ministries, if you will, that part doesn't change, and it shouldn't change. If you have decided that your work is a certain thing, that this is what I'm dedicating myself to for now and forever. And I try to, I'm always, you guys know me, I'm always trying to figure out how can we make, forever a literal thing, like really talk about immortality when it comes to our goals. And to be able to do something that will just go on, I was just reading last night, and a good friend of mine who is now part of this Carnegie Institute. And I was just sitting there, I was reading it, and I'm just like, this dude Carnegie. I mean, Andrew Carnegie passed away in 1919. And when he died, when he died, he was roughly the richest man in the world. And what are we now? In 2022. And the assets that he left at the time of his death, and I'm going to look up this number because it's a worthwhile number to know, but I can just estimate that it's probably 10 times larger than it was when he passed away. And his work, and it's designed to just continue to grow. And his work continues to be an institution in so many facets of our reality that we don't even know about. It's funding things that we have no clue where these certain groups and companies get the information or get their funding. So immortality is a real thing. And so when we think about what it is that we've identified as our life's work, regardless of if we are pursuing stuff or if we're forced to make a decision about something, the one constant that we have to help us through all of those twists and turns is our life's work. And I want to have that type of conversation today because one, we're talking about transition, but I think it's worth it. I don't know if a more worthy conversation to have than to, number one, in some cases, remind people, and I shouldn't, in some cases, actually, introduce this concept that we all have a unique purpose for living, that there is no one who's walking around who does not have a purpose. And imagine you having a conversation with someone who thought they had no purpose, and you tell them you actually do have a purpose. And what are you talking about? I don't have a purpose. Like, what? I'm just here breathing, and I'm going to die one day. Like, and if that is their concept of life, and the fact that you're able to say, trust me, you have a purpose. And then you have that conversation with them, just a very, core essential conversation around, what makes you happy and what makes you mad and why. So what makes you happy and why? I mean, they say it, they tell you what makes them happy, and they say why. And if that first why it's kind of a frivolous surface answer, hit them with the why onion. Every now and again, somebody will give you a real why. And if that person gives you a real why, like, and that first answer was like right at their core because they already there, like they're passionate after that first answer, then they're on it. They're ready. They were just waiting to talk to you, But most people aren't going to be there. Most people, you're going to meet them and they have that aimless look in their eyes. And you have that conversation with them. So, what makes you happy? That's a question that everybody can answer. Whatever the answer is, and the answer could be frivolous. It could be just as simple as ever. But the answer is there. And once they give you an answer, at least you're down the road. And they give you a frivolous answer. And you say, well, why is that? And they give you another kind of frivolous, but a little bit more meat to it. They'll say, well, why is that? And if you give them that 7 times why question, they're going to get to the core. And in the same case of what makes you mad, what really pisses you off. And a lot of people can get there when you ask that question, actually. Sometimes it doesn't take, going through the Y onion, you can really get to what makes people mad quickly. And that's why a lot of people who start things that's based on what they hate, they end up doing well, because they just want to get rid of it, right? And they're passionate about it when it's time to talk about it and raise money for it, right? And so, but we have the tools to literally change a generation of people just with a simple question or simple questions. What makes you happy? What makes you mad? And I think that's something we should be interested in doing because we have that power, so we have it. It's something if anybody who's listening to this right now, you have it, right? And that can change everything. That can change the scope for somebody who you've been thinking about them, like, man, I don't know what's going to happen with them. Seems like every time I talk to them, it's a deeper situation, and that person needs an interruption. You always know that one person, you're like, they need an interruption, something that's going to interrupt where they're headed, because if not, it's not going to end well for a lot of people. And we have the power to do it. And so, I wanted to kind of highlight that because in these transition periods, it can, unless you are, I would say skilled in faith and your belief system is really rooted where you can be faithful towards something and be at peace at the same time. And so because when I think of the word faith is, I see something that I want, I believe I have it already. It's just not tangible yet. So it's just not, I can't grab it, but I believe it, I have it, it's in my heart, it's in my spirit. All I need to do is just keep moving. And there's people who will do that, but not be at peace, but they're still being faithful, But then there are others who I call the masters, who you literally see people throwing stones, like literally like shooting. I mean, you literally see people doing everything they possibly can to destroy them. And they still move with peace and confidence and self-assuredness because they're so committed to the faith process and if that faith process is one of those lifelong work kind of situations, or like as Paz mentioned, the journey, if that's the case, then that's just the case. I'm just going to be a peaceful faith warrior for the rest of my days kind of thing. And there are people, I call those folks the masters because you see them doing it. You know what they're moving toward. You see their wins. They may not have that big, glorious win that everybody saw, but you see those little measurable wins. Like, ooh, nobody paid attention, but did you see what she just did? I was like, no. Was it in the news? Like, no, it wasn't in the news. You need to go look. And so a lot of times, if it didn't make the big news, people don't think you're winning, right? Or at that level, or if you didn't see something, and I know growing up, it's like when we were growing up, we thought, well, you were rich if you were riding a Benz or something like that. So, they rich, right? Because they got a Benz, and you didn't realize like your neighbor was the multi-millionaire and they were riding, just in a Nissan, right? And so it's like, it's those things that being able to just see those folks who are just peacefully faithful and actively winning. And because they're actively winning, because they're open and clear with what it is that they're here to do. This is my work. This is my life's work. This is my ministry. This is my business. This is my goal. There's no getting around it. And just being able to see that ongoing commitment to the purpose. And so I just wanted to kind of talk about that a little bit as we talk about transition and how transition sometimes comes because we want it. And then sometimes it blindsides us. And we're stuck in a situation of how do we handle transition regardless of how it comes. And I want to just take a second, open up the call to anybody who's, willing to talk about their transition and maybe even something from the past, an example that you can share and how you dealt with it. And maybe even now, as we are coming out of one 90-day goal setting challenge, likely moving into another as we prepare for the end of the year, in the transition mode from what you've built and to what is to come, and how that reality is working for you. Let's take a second. We'll open up the call now. Anybody have any questions, comments, or just would like to share on this topic? We'll open up the call now. Well, one thing I definitely wanted to mention, and this is, a lot of times when we're doing these calls, it is a lot of this stuff is very personal to me because I'm literally going through it myself. As I was sharing with one of my clients the other day, that, I don't know if I chose to do this financial science project on myself just to see if I could be of value to my clients, but I'm literally buying and selling in a market where there's not a buyer's market or a seller's market. So it is it's definitely a financial science project, but it is my reality, right? And so and when you're in those kind of spaces where you set the goal, you made the move, you still have things to come, and objectives you're working on, and all those different types of things. But it's the in-between season, and and that it kind of goes back to being thankful to have access to, as I mentioned, kind of those masters, if you will, the folks who just show you day after day that if you have a goal, fall in love with it. If you have a mission that you are on, fall in love with it. If you have a ministry that is deeply rooted in your spirit, fall in love with it and just be about that, because anything short of that, it can become problematic. The transitions become problematic. Interruptions become problematic. All of those things, like a no becomes problematic. All of those things that could get in the way will get in the way, and it'll affect you in ways that you don't want. It'll affect your mindset. It'll affect your marriage. It'll affect your relationships with your coworkers and your business partners, and it'll affect a bunch of stuff if your mind isn't just so focused on the mission and so focused on the objective and moving forward, because the objective is real and you see it every day. And that's the thing for me. I've had, even in the recent, past couple of weeks, I've had so many, just wannabe interruptions, things that just was like, check this out and check this out and check this out. And, oh, this ain't going to work. That's not going to work. And just throwing all these different darts. And I'm just like, I don't see it. I don't have time, Like I just don't have time to get too immersed in all of the negative and all of the things that are not related to the mission. And because I'll tell you something else. And when I say fall in love with your mission, it's that going back to the whole concept of when the beginning of the creation process and being in that situation where you're building something in your mind. And so it's in your mind, but then you start writing it down. And if it stays in your mind, then it's only between just you and God. But when you write it down, that's the first step of toward practicality. Somebody could mess around and read, your journal, right? And whether it be on purpose or whether you giving it to somebody else to read or you're documenting your words, but at the end of the day, the stuff that you were writing down can very well become practical in your lifetime or someone else's lifetime, but it can become practical. And so, and I've gotten to a point now where when I'm in that creation process, it's like, okay, this has to happen, man. It's like when you're really getting excited about the ideas and the dreams that come up in your mind. And then you get to the place you keep building it, you're building it, and you're writing it down. And next thing you know, you actually start reading this thing. You're like, yo, this has to happen. It's like, this has to come to life. And I would prefer it to come to life in my lifetime. So let's try to figure out how we can get this ball rolling here. And that's kind of where I am. I'm in that stage of this has to happen. And the want and the need to have my goals and dreams and all the things that, that we have in probably 5 or 6 reams of journals, to see those things come to life and begin the process of building those things, that's bigger than the interruptions. You can't do that. And hey, check this out. I think you should be doing this, and all of this random interruptions that get in the way. Or, hey, I'm gonna give you a higher interest rate because the federal government wants to change from a buyer to a seller to a buyer's market, and you just happen to be selling and buying at the same time. All of that stuff, right? And it's that, but my goal is bigger than all of that. So the energy that the goal creates gives you the creativeness to find ways to make your current situation make sense. And like the energy creates this, and I'm trying my best not to get way too metaphysical right now. But, for anybody who read, The Secret or Think and Grow Rich or Law of Success 16 Lessons, any of that, and talking about the creative mind and the power of the creative mind and getting access to, other thoughts that are in that similar vibration and thought, and being able to recognize that these are thoughts that I didn't have, but these are thoughts that like vibrations have. And so now I got access to it. And I can tell you, it's not even about do you believe it. I'm telling you, I've been in situations where I'm trying to come up with strategy for clients that just did not make sense, right? It's like, but we saw the end goal, we saw the big objective, and it was we were one in thought, right? And that this has to work. And when that oneness of thought, that mastermind, if you will, was created, I'm like, oh, wait a second. Let's check out this. Let's look at this. Wait a second. So you said you had that over there. How much is in that account? Where did it come from? What kind of money is it? Like, all this, oh, wait. Didn't Uncle Johnny pass away a couple of years ago? What happened to that money? Like, did he own a house, and is there equity in the house or whatever? You just really start pulling all kinds of things going that could be a part and putting together the puzzle to make your immediate reality what you need to help you move forward with what you're trying to build. And so that's a long way to say, just don't give up on the dream. You need that thing to be so big that it's keeping you motivated to overcome the day-to-day foolishness that we watch people succumb to. We watch people every day succumb to day-to-day foolishness every day. Whether you turn on the news and see it, or whether you walk outside, or you look outside and you see somebody arguing about something, and next thing you know, I mean, it's a day-to-day deal. You hear about somebody who's now locked up for just some complete foolishness reasons, just dumb stuff. And you're just sitting there like, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. And the only my thought there is the only way to get around that is to just stay so committed to what it is that you are here to do that you're not distracted. You're not distracted. You let those people live in their life, live in their lane. Let anybody who's willing to throw a dart at you, just let them throw whatever they want to throw. It has nothing to do, it has more to do with them than it does you. They have stuff they need to figure out. And you stay so committed to your work, your goals, your dreams, your desires, your ministries, all of that. You stay so focused on that. Somebody would have to tell you that what's the name, or that company or that person or whoever was out to get you, and they said this and they wrote that, and they were, I didn't even know. Like, I hope they're okay. I hope everything worked out. I hope they got over it. So I think that's the main point here. It's just to really, as we're in this transition period, to not get discouraged, to not allow ourselves to be, kind of moved by anything other than the objective of getting to the other side. So, because when we get to the other side, we're going to need all the resources, all the energy, everything that we possibly have now and will get access to help us in that new realm, because I was literally just this week thinking about, I was like, man, actually I had a conversation yesterday. With my boss, random conversation. And it was just one of those conversations that it's like, man, this thing is created. I mean, it reaches past, not just business, but we're talking about how to be able to really affect people on a massive scale. And that's, for me, it's a personal passion, and it's the beginning of the life work. And so, it's worth sitting down and just really checking ourselves and really going back to what it is that we believe we're here to do. And what is our passion work? What is our ministry? One of my mentors, he would tell everybody in the middle of a meeting, he was like, I'm so glad all of you are here, because this is my ministry. He's like, we're going to make a lot of money together. He's like, but the work that we're doing is what God brought me here to do. And he will open up meetings like that. And imagine that's setting the tone, right? It's like, oh, okay, like, brother about to take us to church, right? He's like, this is my ministry. Now let's get started. And I'm like, I love when he does it too, right? I love when he does it. I'm like, yeah. Like, hey, man, brother. Look, hey, man, calm down, Dees. All right, here we go. So, yeah. So that's the main objective, is to just make sure that we, our goals are bigger than all the random stuff that, people try to throw at us. If our goals are bigger, then we should be okay. But if we're getting really swayed by this stuff, we got to go back to the source and say, man, what am I building? What am I really working on right now? Because I seem to be easily affected and swayed by this stuff. And that shouldn't be the case. So Anybody have any questions or comments or want to share a little bit on this topic? We'll open up the call now. Before you do that, actually, I wanted to read this scripture that I
Oh, bam, there we go. Hello?
Yeah. Oh no, go ahead, brother. Actually, hey, Pass, hold your thought because I want to get this off. Let me get this off.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. So I came across a scripture last night that I thought really highlighted this, and so this is Ecclesiastes 7th chapter, 8th through the 11th verse, and this is, I think this works, the English Standard Version. It says, "Better is the end of a thing than is beginning." So better is the end of a thing than its beginning. And the patient in spirit is better than the proud in spirit. Be not quick in your spirit to become angry, for anger lodges in the heart of fools. Say not, why were the former days better than these? For it is not from wisdom that you ask this. Wisdom is good with an inheritance and advantage to those who see the sun. And that just kind of highlights what we're talking about right now. The wisdom comes from the folks who see the objective, who see the goal, who see what we're working toward. And if that's your main focus, the information you need to deal with the day-to-day stuff, it's going to come. The day-to-day weirdness, all that, it's going to come. So I just want to share that. It's Ecclesiastes 7th chapter, 8th through 11th verse. I did post that on social media, on the comments on Facebook and YouTube. So you'll have that there as well. All right, Brother Morris, bring us in.
Man, you just go ahead and hit me with Ecclesiastes and say, all right now, Brother Moore. Bring us in.
Bring us in, brother. There we go. There we go.
Well, the thought that I had was behind the whole transition piece.
Yeah.
And how the goal setting, and like you discussed, and it's pretty basic. Writing down your goals and then having something, concrete that you're working towards, assists in the transition in this way. Because when you talk about that weather and transitioning, it reminded me that sometimes as things are transitioning, you're not aware until it's a little too late that the transition has occurred. And I know a lot of the times we've all been in that position. I know specifically, like this, even in the weather kind of thing, simple in the weather transitions that you talked about that, you walk out, it's 90 or whatever, it's summertime, and then one morning you go to leave and you're like, man, it is cold out here. Like, what happened? Where did the summertime go? It's gone. Yeah. And I was not, air quotes, prepared for this transition. Now, I knew it was coming.
Yeah.
I felt it. It's been coming around the same time every year of my life since I've been, aware. But you get kind of caught out there. And in this transition, and then you just got to scramble to maybe, unpack your coats or whatever, or get your jeans out or your long pants out, and you're like, wow. And it rushes your day, and it kind of rushes everything you're trying to do, maybe rush your week or whatever. Or God forbid you get out there that you don't have the right coat, and then you got to go try to buy clothing. And you're like, wow, why is this so expensive, man? Or they don't have my size or whatever. Because that lack of preparation in anticipation for the transition has not occurred. And then conversely, if you look at, if you are, and if we keep in the weather and the whole clothing thing, if you start shopping for, winter coats, and I know people that do that. I know people in your immediate family who are masters of this, who are buying winter apparel, in July. Like, no. Yeah, I'm gonna buy this winter apparel or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's ready, and it's already laid out, and they are prepared, and they've gotten a discount on it. Or even the people who are so smart that at the end of the season, when winter stops, once everybody is done, when everything goes on sale, right before spring comes, they buy the winter coat and put it away.
Yeah.
And then it comes out in wintertime, and they've gotten it the best possible discount, the nicest coat, whatever, and meanwhile, the other person is like looking for that coat, maybe 2-3 times more, and it's not right, all those things. So the idea that a transition, we know a transition is coming. We're all listening to this line are adults. So we know that a transition is coming in life.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, especially if you're pushing for something, that transition is going to occur. The idea is that if you have, written out your goal and you know the direction that you're going in, you can begin to prepare for the transition, even if it's just a mental preparation for whatever the transition is going to occur. It's just like, this is my version of the word of warning, so you don't get caught out there and have to put your pants down like, oh man, this happened and I wasn't really prepared for it. And I know that happens, in your business, obviously, through all the financial industry business, but and all the other, and the weather and all those other things, but just the mental piece is something that only the person who's setting the goal can prepare for. And that's what we're talking about. We're talking about personal development. So you're trying to prepare yourself mentally for the transition based on movement into that goal. And that's not something that, I can bring up or somebody else can say to you, but the emotional readiness and, the spiritual readiness to kind of push forward. And as the transition happens, is something that, a responsible person and a person that's really dedicated to pushing themselves forward is also working on. That was just one thing that came to me in mind when you talk about transition and the weather change and all that. I said, wow, if you are transitioning, you should be ready for the transition. And part of goal setting is getting ready for that transition. So that was my one thought. I don't know if that goes with Ecclesiastes, but you know what I'm saying? Amen.
That's a good point, especially when we're talking about personal development in and of itself is preparation. Preparation for transition.
Yes.
Preparation for planned transitions and unplanned transitions. Because the one, I think what we all see a lot of times is when those unplanned transitions happen. I remember I was just talking to I don't even know now, but I was just talking about how some of you know this story when when my wife and I got engaged. She had absolutely no clue that the furthest thing for her from her mind is that we would be getting engaged when we did, primarily because I didn't have a job. So, and that wasn't that I didn't want a job. It was that I had an unplanned transition and called at that time, actually, it was the credit crisis. And, I think half of our firm was laid off. And so we all, anybody in the financial industry in 2008 fully understands and remembers that it was just a lot of people who have been doing well and doing all types of, living their extreme, lives during that time. The next month, or definitely in some cases the next year, were without jobs because of the financial crisis. And it wasn't a quick fix, it was a very interesting time. And so my wife, she was like, when this dude showed up with a ring, I was like, what? You don't have a job, sir. and so how does that work? And we moved forward, and we had set an engagement and all of that. And by the time we actually got married, I was working. By that time I was already at Legg Mason and had been at Legg for about 4 months, I think, and actually was interviewing for a promotion, and so, but a lot of time went by where we were engaged and I didn't have a job. And this was before we started this network. But even before we started this network, I was, I think, in many ways, not in any organized fashion, but was working on personal development in just kind of my own little ways and reading and different things, but nothing that was organized or structured. But those little things helped, because I could have easily, went the opposite direction when, which is what you hear most cases, folks will say, I'm not, especially a lot of brothers, a lot of brothers will say, hey, I can't get married yet because I'm not right yet. And when a brother tells you I'm not right yet, that means, he don't have his money together. It's like, I'm not right where I really want to be. I'm not right yet. And so that's usually the go-to thing. It's like, I don't have, I'm not where I want to be yet. So I would say at that point in time, if it wasn't for some level of personal development, I wouldn't have been able to take advantage of, or leave it, or at least I wouldn't have acted on that. And on top of that, when the unwanted transition happened, I definitely would have been in a situation of, it could have gone downhill fast, and I know many who were colleagues who never really recovered. I've seen them go outside the industry and use certain skills in other industries and things. I've seen, folks who have attempted different forms of entrepreneurship, and then to come back to the industry in a different capacity and things like that. But in many cases, it wiped out a lot of careers during the financial crisis. And so, so that's just another example of how, from a personal development perspective, it's really preparation for transition, whether it's prepared, planned transition or unplanned transition, and finding yourself in situations that you don't want to be in, but you're there. And now that you're there, where's your mindset? The way Jim Rohn used to say, what sail have you set? When you get on your sailboat, what sail have you set to be prepared for winds that or you expect to happen, or that unexpected wind that comes if you're on the Atlantic Ocean and a hurricane's on the way. And so just being able to have the right mindset is the goal, and to be prepared for planned or unplanned transitions. So that's all I got. So anybody have any questions, comments on the topic before we finish up for the day? All right. Well, listen, I hope some of you guys, I hope you guys were able to go to Purple Honey last Sunday. Those who are in the Baltimore market and was able to take advantage of the show last week. I had it all planned to be there. I was in town last week, and then so my daughter started school, and she's in the program, and she had an opportunity to perform at at my high school football game, and I was like, oh yeah, no, I can't miss that. So I wasn't able to be there, but was able to see the kids, and I shouldn't just call them little kids, but they were young students out there doing really well. It was a great experience. But then I was able to watch Purple Honey on live on Sunday, which was that's another example. Also, I was thinking about that too, because Paz and I got involved with Purple Honey almost 10 years ago. We got involved with Purple Honey in 2013. So about 9 years ago. And so it wasn't long after we started the network. But the network got us connected with Purple Honey, and within a year's time. And I can tell you, it's just been a true value for all of us. And I remember even early on, Paz was like, "Hey, I'm with you on this one, Dees, but this isn't my flow. This is this is not what I do. But hey, I'm in." And now almost 10 years later, knee deep. Almost 10 years later, knee deep, can't get your legs out of it now, brother.
Yeah, a whole nother story. I was thinking about that the other day. I'm like, man, you don't even. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Energy. Good friend. Brother Kid Johnson, a good friend of mine.
My man. My man, Brother Johnson. Yes, sir. So it's all good. And that's another thing. And it's just amazing because I was here the other week and ran into a place that I was like, oh man, we could do a great Purple Honey here. And have a man with me, and we were just strategizing. I was kind of talking about the experiences over the past 9 years with Purple Honey in Baltimore. It's like, this could be great. And here we go, right? And so, yeah, man, I think it's just that's just another example of being consistent. I was just thinking about how, we've been associated with it for 9 years, but it's been going on a lot longer than that. And for the city to have, a cultural event like that's been going on quarterly for, I would say, probably about 15 years. I tell you, it speaks to Brother Johnson and his creativity and his influence on the arts and culture market in Baltimore. Yeah. That in and of itself is a blessing for the city of Baltimore to be able to have people like that to influence and kind of set the tone for the entertainment and art scene. So, all right. Well, folks, have a great weekend. Enjoy this transition in the weather. For those of you who are, and I saw the in Maryland, the weather's beginning to change. Hadn't really changed here in Florida yet, so I don't know when that transition is supposed to happen. But because
Florida transition.
Yeah. No, I don't think this might be a pool day. I think this is a pool day, brother. So this.
Oh no! Hoodies, hat is coming out. Hoodies, yeah, with jeans, we here now. It's time. Yep.
No. I think this is a pool day. 93 degrees, pool day. So.
Okay. 93. Wow. Okay.
So. But enjoy the weekend. Actually, there are a couple things coming up. So this Thursday, so this coming week in DC is Congressional Black Caucus weekend. So if you're in DC, Maryland area, check out Congressional Black Caucus, the events that are coming up. This is the great time to just get plugged into what's happening. What is the caucus doing to help further the objectives of Black people in this country, and to be able to be a part of that process. I think you can get a full rundown of the agenda if you go to www.cbcf.org, Congressional Black Caucus Foundation.org. So cbcf.org, and get the information. Actually, I'm going to test that out and see if that's actually it. And I put this in our chat. cbcf.org. Yeah, I think that's right. So that's starting, I believe, on Tuesday or Wednesday in DC. No, that's not right. That said Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So that is not right. But just go to Google and look for it. Congressional Black Caucus 2022. Also, this Thursday at the Reginald F. Lewis Museum in Baltimore is the President's Roundtable hosting its annual CEO briefing. And the keynote speaker is my main man, Delali Jarasa, the CEO of Fearless, one of the fastest growing companies in America, period, but definitely one of the fastest growing African-American owned businesses in America. Will be the keynote speaker. Very good brother to you. He's just someone you want to hear from, and how he built his business, why he's built it the way he did, and what's to come for the Fearless Corporation. And that'll be at the Reginald F. Lewis Museum. Very appropriate place to hold such an event on this Thursday at noon. So it's a lunch event. I will be there and excited to be back at the Lewis and be around just great leaders throughout the state. And so that's this coming Thursday, September 29th at the Lewis Museum for the President's Roundtable CEO briefing. So check your calendars. If you have any questions, shoot me an email. You can go to the website, www.dreammakersnetwork.org. Get access to some of these updates, schedule time for consultation just to kind of catch up. We can do that, dreammakersnetwork.org. And I think that's everything that I wanted to wrap with you guys on. Anybody have anything that we should know about that's coming up that we need to put on our calendars? That's coming up. Let's open up the call now to do that. We'll open up the call now. Got it. So I think that's right. Okay. Have a great weekend. Look forward to connecting with you guys, hearing from you soon, and we will catch up. We'll be ready for the next call as we get into our planning for the end of the year planning in October, the last Saturday in October. So we'll see you guys then. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you soon.